What's up, people? I'm Erica, and this is Cocktails and Capitalism, a podcast that pairs crafted beverages with stories distilled from our capitalist hellscape. I'm overjoyed to be speaking with Reagan and Velveeta, two amazing women who have been working with fellow dancers to unionize the Star Garden Topless dive bar. While the club is contesting the results of the union vote, it looks like these badass women are successfully establishing the first stripper union to form in the U.S. since the 90s. This would be the only stripper union currently existing in America. It's an honor to be speaking with you both. Welcome to the show.
Thank you. So excited to be here. Big fans.
Oh, that's so nice. So excited to have you guys here. I was first exposed to what you guys are doing when I went down to that house party at Little Secret LA, and I got to see you guys perform on stage with Chris Smalls. Velveeta, you were in like these incredible, like, what are they called? The red cups that teens in like
solo
college
cups.
students use.
Yeah.
Solo cups, yeah.
Red solo
Your solo cup outfit
ensemble.
was fucking killer.
Yeah, we had decided amongst ourselves that night that the theme was ABC, so anything but clothes is what we were gonna dress as.
So my outfit was 3 solo cups and only 3.
And only 3. And a fanny
Red
pack,
solo
which is, I was just fucking loving the fanny pack. Oh, man. I might have to post some of those videos when I share this episode.
Are you
If you
even
guys are cool with that.
anti-capitalist if you don't have a fanny pack? That's my question.
The weirdest gatekeeping we've had on this show.
The weirdest gatekeeping. Fuck, I gotta go get my fanny pack. Shit. Oh, dear. Well, did you guys get a chance to make the cocktail for today?
We did. We have crafted this beautiful pink drink.
Cheers.
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 Bonk.
Bonk.
Try not to spill on my computer.
Yeah, don't do that.
Yeah, damn it.
That would be the second time you've gotten a drink all over a computer that we're using to record.
The other one just spraying it with my mouth. It's not good. But the drink for today is the Stripper Strike. And it is a cocktail based on some of Reagan's favorite cocktail ingredients. It's gin, a little bit of lime, and some Fever Tree pink grapefruit tonic water. And it is really fucking delicious. I'd never had that tonic water before, and it's really good. Like, I just want to make cocktails with that all the time now.
It is my favorite. I actually already had a case that I had bought from Costco, I think. So, like, I was ready to make this drink.
Awesome.
This episode of our anti-capitalist podcast is sponsored by Costco. Shout out to Costco.
So I guess let's just jump into it. I was wondering if you guys could explain a little bit of the working conditions that led you to want to unionize. Like, what was wrong with your workspace that made you feel compelled to do this work?
Yeah.
You can go ahead. Yeah.
Yeah, for me, I saw a really glaring lack of safety protocol, and that was like one of the galvanizing forces behind the decision to start making actions and to start this movement. It was because safety is like one of those things that you can't compromise in this work. Because it's our lives. Yeah. And like when you get down to it, like our physical safety and our lives have to be important enough to like go to work and put ourselves and our bodies at risk. And this job it does come with a certain amount of risk, both to like our physical safety, our emotional safety. And it's important to take that seriously. And I saw just an overwhelming pattern of safety being deprioritized by the management of this club in a way that felt actively dangerous, that we were in danger, and that no one was taking it seriously and that things were getting worse and getting scary. And I was honestly afraid for my life and afraid for the lives of my coworkers, because just certain things were not taken seriously about customers that were sort of left to their own devices. There was no security intervention if a customer was out of line. Customers would be getting overserved and getting drunk and acting inappropriately. And we were expected to deal with those on an individual basis. And we were literally told by our bosses, a husband and wife team, to smile and walk away as a way to diffuse a situation instead of like helping a situation. And so at that point, when I had brought up a safety concern to the bartender who was acting as a manager on duty one night, things went really south, and we ended up getting into an argument and about safety and about them not taking our safety seriously. That argument and that escalation led to me being fired when I tried to come into my next shift. And then so that was one of the things that was like one of three things that I think of as kind of like the snowball that led to our first action. So that was the one that was the first thing. And then another dancer was looking out for her coworker and her privacy and safety. She was being recorded by a customer on stage, topless, without her consent, and the security wasn't doing anything about it. And so this dancer intervened on the other dancer's behalf to try to get this customer to stop recording her. And she was fired for causing drama. So that was like strike two. And then the third thing was that same week, just to clarify, in case anyone had any doubt, the one of the bosses, Jenny, came into the dressing room with all the dancers that were still there at that point and made this announcement that if anyone had any safety concerns, that they were not allowed to go to the security and that they had to go through the management and get approval, and the management would then contact the security if they sort of deemed it necessary to get them involved. And so that was strike three. And so that was the week that the dancers organized and did their first action, which was delivering a petition for safety.
Yeah, so when we delivered the petition that night, just to illustrate this point, Jenny and Steve both were not expected to come into the bar. We were told that the bartender said that they weren't coming in because Jenny was sick and Steve was too busy or something, and this was going to be a Friday night. And when I called Jenny to let her know that we wanted to talk and we had a petition and it was very serious, she said, well, you can just call us if there's anything that happens. I said, if you're not on site and there's an imminent security issue, calling you and then you rolling back the security footage to figure out what's going on so that you can make some kind of decision on our behalf is totally unacceptable. And so she said, well, anyone that doesn't feel safe working tonight can go home, no problem. I'll call you and we can have a talk when I'm feeling better. And of course, the next day she was totally unresponsive to all of our calls and messages. And we knew at that point that we had been locked out and retaliated against.
Jesus Christ. Oh my God. And not only are they not willing to stand up for you when you are being harassed, and in kind of dangerous ways harassed, but then they're going to retaliate against your fellow coworkers who are standing up for you, who are putting their necks out there. I mean, and doing the right thing. Like, that is just fucking disgusting to me.
Yeah, crazy
I'm so sorry about that.
A woman who acted in very motherly ways towards us and wanted to create this feeling that she was looking out for us, and said to me on the phone, oh no, it's very safe. Like, I don't really understand what you're talking about. And then for her to basically to ignore, like, over 2/3 of her workforce, over 2/3 of us came forward to say we don't feel safe. And she's going to tell us that we don't know what we're talking about or that she knows better than us, but we're the ones on the floor. It makes no sense. And it's the extent, the lengths that employers go to bust unions and to squash these kinds of organizing efforts is really totally incommensurate with the cost that they are actually facing to make these problems better. In our petition, we asked for things that were basically asking them to comply with the law, basic stuff. And instead they've dragged this out 9 months and cost themselves a lot of business and legal fees. So that's one of the things that I have yet to understand is why these corporations, these businesses, even a small business like Star Garden, will go to these lengths to union bust when workers are only asking for basic livelihoods.
And what we were asking for was I think achievable with $0. I mean, everything that we were asking for was not only reasonable but free. And now 9 months later, we are deep into some very thorny legal battles. They have gone through multiple lawyers. I mean, the cost is exorbitant at this point.
Yeah.
And it's
totally.
What are it just doesn't make any sense. It just doesn't make sense.
Totally. And it makes me think of the railroad workers who are they're asking for 5 fucking days off, 5 sick days. And that is too much. And, the government is the president and everyone, they're going to stand behind these railroad conglomerates instead of advocating for those 5 days to be given to these people.
That is 5 times more than they currently have. So it does make it seem kind of ridiculous that they would ask for that much.
That is
so ridiculous.
That is insane.
It's disgusting, but it just makes me think more and more that it's not even about the money. It's about the control and the ability to control the whole scenario and the money in the future. I don't know. That's a little bit of my take on what you're saying there. Why the fuck would they do that if they're losing so much money doing this? It's bizarre, but so it goes. So I was wondering if you ladies could talk about kind of the process for how you went from petitioning your employer to casting your votes to form a union. I know there are a bunch of steps in between and you've kind of alluded to them, but I would love for you to just lay those out for listeners a little bit more.
Yeah, so we were locked out. We were picketing for a few weeks at that point, and we realized that we did not want to go back to work without the protections of a union and without looking forward to negotiating a union contract that would cover us in so many different ways, because it was clear these employers did not care about our labor rights, they didn't care about our safety, and so there's a lot of other things that we feel very strongly about, anti-discrimination, because these owners hadn't hired a single black dancer in the year that they had been operating the club, so we wanted to ensure that wasn't going to continue. And we want to be paid fair wages. We currently aren't paid at all, and we give half of our lap dance earnings to the club. So we make our money off of tips and then that other half of the lap dance money. So that is not legal or fair. So we want to change that too. So we just, we said, we have nothing to lose at this point, so we're going to go for it all and pursue union recognition. And so it took months after that. We gave their lawyer a agreement to sign, a card check agreement, which would have been a voluntary recognition agreement. They did not sign that or return that to us. And then Actors Equity stepped in.
Do you want to talk about the sort of saga, like with like the different direction that we were gonna take with Strippers United, or
sure,
I can talk
yeah.
about it. So at first, after we had realized that we wanted to unionize and that was our next step, given the options that we had and given the resources that we had, we were going to go take this path that is a little more DIY and a little scrappier than the path that we're on now. And like, I just want to give love to this like alternate universe that we were on, like this path that we were on. We were going to create our own union basically from scratch and unionize with the resources and the name recognition of Strippers United, which is a nonprofit organization that was founded in Los Angeles a few years ago. And their mission is to help strippers know their rights. And one of the things that they were after as an organization was the goal was to unionize a strip club. And so like when we knew them and then they knew us, and we were using resources from Strippers United, including like our amazing legal representative, Jordan Palmer, who has helped us so much since day one of like knowing our rights, standing up for us, and empowering us in so many different ways. And so we were originally going to unionize as Strippers United, a brand new union. And so we were seeking recognition as that. Then some other things happened, and our legal representatives were also connected through a legal firm to a big union, a union that many of us know, and that is Actors Equity. And we were sort of pitched to them as like a possible workforce that they might be interested in representing. And it turns out that they were super interested. And so we were reached out to, and this sort of relationship was kind of brokered through our legal representatives. And it was kind of a perfect, like an unexpected perfect match. And what we have in common with stage actors is more than you might think. Or maybe a lot of the similarities come to mind. The fact that we're both performers that perform on a stage. The fact that like many of our safety concerns are very similar. A lot of the concerns about power dynamics between the workers and the management and people in power, that's a very similar relationship. And so the protections that we were seeking were things that Actors Equity felt very comfortable representing us and taking us under their wing. And we had this amazing Zoom meeting with them where we got to ask them really hard questions, you know, like, what does it mean for you to represent this other workforce that is like, you know, historically been on the fringes of society? Like, while the work that we do is legal, it's often kind of outcast as this sort of illegitimate job. And Actors Equity just assuaged our fears, like just 100%, and was so unbelievably excited and enthusiastic to represent us and to create this new relationship. And so like we were really excited to move forward with that. And then so in August, we made our big announcement that we were unionizing under Actors Equity, which is a huge union with like far more resources than Strippers United, the nonprofit. That being said, like our relationship with Strippers United is still really strong. They were 100% behind this decision. And it was like, it was a totally mutual like decision that like, you know, you should go with this union that has the resources and the manpower, the woman power. By the way, like our entire like legal team and like the sort of like the forerunners of our union leadership is 100% women. So that's like a really, really powerful, amazing thing. And that's, I'm speaking for
Hell
Actors
yeah.
Equity as well. So
Wow.
like this was a great match, and Strippers United has been so supportive and like, yeah, nothing but amazing things to say about them and their work. And so we have changed our course, but we still have their support. And yeah, so just to clarify, because I know like there's been some twists and turns. So now, so in August, we have announced that we're organizing, that we're unionizing with Actors Equity. And then do you want to pick it up?
Oh, I mean, yeah, like, and I wanted to mention, too, that Strippers United was founded by Antonia Crane, who is a Lusty Lady, and she was there when they unionized in 1996, so there's a real direct legacy between the Lusty Lady Union and our union now.
And that was in Portland, right? The Lusty
It was
Ladies?
in San Francisco.
Oh, San Francisco, yeah, that was it.
Oh, I don't know how much you wanted me to get into the union election process and all of that.
I would love that.
But we did have to... Oh, sure. Okay. So the first step was to file for an election. We had collected a supermajority of cards that were signed by our union members. So I think it's an important thing, too, to talk about when you're talking about unionizing. There are these trade unions, like Actors Equity is a trade union, and it's a organization unto itself, essentially, with the resources, the legal manpower, woman power, and structure to support unions. And unions are actually the groups of workers at their workplace that call the shots about what they want to fight for in the workplace. So our Star Garden union is gaining representation from Actors Equity, who will assist us in bargaining a contract that will meet our demands of our workplace. And I think it's important just to emphasize that, because a lot of people think of unions as coming in and stealing your autonomy, and they're going to tell you when you have to strike and all of this, but it's all up to the workers. And that's why it's so absurd to me that there's any discussion at all about, like, any anti-union discussion at all in this country. Like, a union is good for the workers because it is the workers. It's like, it's the workers saying what they want and getting what they want. But anyway,
Totally.
so Actors Equity filed for our union election with the NLRB, which is a legal process. They presented the NLRB with our cards that we had signed, showing that you have to have at least 30%. We had like 70%. Showing that there was a mandate for a union election.
Fuck yeah.
Then there was then this is the hilarious part, there were some hearings because Star Garden wanted to claim that they made less than $500,000 in revenue for the year, which would mean that they fell out of the jurisdiction of the NLRA. So there was this whole hearing where Steve got up on the stand and lied about, at Star Garden, the most popular drink is water, and customers usually only drink like 1 or 2 drinks, and there's no cash that comes through the bar. We handle it all in credit card transactions. He had this totally bogus bank statement saying that all of the credit card transactions went through to the bank statements that you could see. And it's like October 6th, $65 was spent at the bar.
Oh my God.
And then on top of that, he's saying that we don't keep track of lap dances.
Oh yeah, he's like, we keep track of them in our head.
Yeah, it's so negligible.
Yeah,
oh my God.
Because he denied the existence of like a dance log of like how we keep track of like who, like what dancer is giving how many dances and like how much she's paid and how much goes to the bar and how much like all of the money that comes in through the like lap dance money. He was claiming that like there was no dance log, it never existed. Like his words were, no such thing exists. And then like they're like,
Jesus.
and so how do you keep track of the dances? And he's like, oh, in our minds.
Oh my God.
We keep track of it in our head. I was like, wow.
Yeah. So obviously trying
fucking
to
lame.
erase an entire cash revenue stream, and so none of that held any water with the NLRB, and they authorized our election, and then we had a mail ballot election. And so we had our election. We mailed in our ballots. Then on November 7th, the NLRB had the ballot count, but the employer objected to all of ours because we've been on strike, and they want to say that we were never employees, because I don't know if I'm a little unclear on whether they're going to argue that we were never employees because we were independent contractors, which would seem to be dubious, because actually willful misclassification is a felony in California. So it's like, I don't know how much you want to be like parading that argument around. But so there's that. And then also they might be arguing that we had quit on our own accord instead of being locked out, which it would be hard to explain the 9 months of picketing if that was the case.
Oh my God, yeah.
So we'll see what kind of arguments they try to pull, but that we're awaiting that hearing date.
Yeah,
I gotta
we're
say,
waiting. We're
someone...
waiting for our hearing date that will certify the election.
I see. What, John?
As someone who has never been to a strip club, I did not think that my first experience talking to strippers would be them fucking educating me on labor law and the struggles of unionization. Like, if you had asked me a year ago, like, hey, what do you think talking to strippers will be like? I wouldn't have said, like, they'll teach you what unionizing is. Like, what California labor law dictates about misclassification of fucking revenue streams. Like, what?
So good. It's the best.
Yeah. But also, like, this whole process has been an education for me. Like, I didn't know so much of now what I'm, like, going into, like, Zoom classrooms at, like, UCLA and, like, talking about, like, as, like, some expert, you know? And I'm just like, I literally just learned this, but, like, I'm intimately familiar with, like, labor law now and how it applies to me, and, like, I can walk you through this whole, like, 9 month process, and I know it like the back of my hand. But it's like, it's interesting how fast you learn things when it really applies to your life.
Oh yeah, and I love that you are, I mean, showing that this wasn't something that you were familiar with since you were a child or something. Like, I think so many people that get into this work get into it because they're all of a sudden in a situation where their employer is not taking care of them. And so they all of a sudden have to figure out how to mobilize and collaborate with their coworkers. And that's, I don't know, I think it's empowering to know that you can start from scratch, that you can pick the stuff up and just run with it and become an expert in it. You know, you don't have to be someone who went to school for this shit or anything. So I'm really, I love that you've just thrown yourself in and that now you're helping to educate other people about it. It's fucking rad.
Yeah, and I wish that for all of us. I wish that everyone has, like, a labor fairy. Like, for us, it was, like, our lawyer who came from Strippers United, who has just been, like, you know, our, like, biggest cheerleader and our fiercest warrior, who has, like, a day job working as a lawyer for a union, but then, like, spends however many tens of hours a week. Like, her work week is not even realistic, but, like, she spends so many hours off the clock, like, volunteering her time pro bono to work for us and work with Strippers United to help strippers understand their rights. And, like, I just cannot imagine any of this without our amazing lawyer, Jordan.
Your labor fairy.
Shout out. I want to cheers to Jordan.
Cheers
to Jordan for teaching me everything I know and for kicking all the ass.
I would love it if you ladies could kind of explain a little bit of the economics behind being a stripper. Like, how are you paid, and what does it mean to be working as an independent contractor versus as an employee? Because I know that is kind of a crucial part of this story.
Well, yeah, and yes and no, I want to say. There's so much misinformation and around independent contractor status, employee status, and a lot of it is perpetuated by the clubs because they don't want to pay us as employees. They don't want to have to pay payroll taxes. Yeah. So generally, strippers are misclassified as independent contractors. And that goes pretty much anywhere in the country. Because, and I don't know the details of employment tests from state to state, but in most states, strippers will be properly classified as employees or should be properly classified as employees. And I think a way to show that is to look at the situation in California before AB 5, which was, California was using a test that's more standard across the country. And even under that test, strippers were classified as employees, but there's just no oversight. There's no enforcement. And so clubs get away with misclassifying their workers, and misclassification is a problem in like tons of industries, and was really brought to the fore with the Uber and Lyft issues with gig workers and everything like that. So you know how like Uber and Lyft drivers are under the control of Uber and Lyft, and they still aren't paid, and they don't have benefits, and they aren't protected. So it's a similar situation with strippers and with other workers who are misclassified. But basically, before AB 5, I actually sued Star Garden in 2017, or in 2018, after I'd worked there for a year. It was my first club. They were not paying us. They were trying to tell us like when we could come in and scheduling us, but then also charging us late fees if we weren't there on time. And so I brought all that up to them, and I said, I'm kind of aware that you're not following the law on this, so the least you could do would be to treat us like you say you should be treating us. If we're independent contractors, you can't schedule us. You can't tell us, you can't control us in any way, basically. You can't tell us what shoes to wear on stage. I had wanted to wear Uggs on stage for Australia Day, and she told me I couldn't. So clearly not an independent contractor. I'm sorry.
I love the idea of suing someone over that. Like, I know that's not it, but in my head, you're like, one time I sued this bitch because she wouldn't let me wear Uggs.
Yeah, I know.
Wait, and just to clarify, this was under different ownership when you sued them.
Yeah, so I sued them. And this is where it's interesting, because I went to my settlement hearing with a judge who was telling me about how all these club owners, because this doesn't happen infrequently that strippers sue their clubs for misclassification. And he said he had heard all sorts of creative arguments from strip club owners about how strippers were actually independent contractors. Like some club owners had said, oh, the DJ has this like troupe of dancers that are his like workers, and like we contract with the like all these like crazy ways of trying to spin it. But he said that in every case, it's pointless because the law is clear that strippers are employees. And so I won a settlement from that lawsuit. And then when I went back to work for Star Garden, it was after owners had changed and management had changed, and they didn't recognize me. So I was, lucky enough to get hired and then create more havoc.
Cheers to that. Fuck yeah. I love it. Cheers myself over here.
Have you guys considered going into like labor law after your careers as strippers are over? Like, I would love to hire a firm called like Velveeta and Associates or something.
Yeah, Sexy and Associates.
Sexy and Associates. Fuck yeah.
Yeah.
Oh my god.
So basically, the moral of the story is that AB 5 didn't change anything. Strippers were employees before. And the club owners have just jumped on the narrative supplied by Uber and Lyft to say that, employee status is going to ruin your life. You should campaign against it. Now we're going to crack down on you and make you come in at certain... It's just like, it's crazy because before, AB 5, we were treated like employees. Now we're treated like employees, and they've just rejiggered the whole systems to take more money from us.
Yeah,
so
just to clarify, when you say that AB 5 didn't change anything, I just want to clarify that, like, in the lived experiences of strippers, it did, because of how, because things did change. It was like this law changed and then things did change. It's just the fact that the law changing, the clarification that AB 5 provided as far as clarifying the law, that isn't what made things change. The strip club owners made changes to like find these very creative and totally duplicitous loopholes, and that is what the lived experience is of these dancers. So I'm just saying when we say nothing changed, a shit ton changed.
Yeah.
It's just it wasn't because of the law, it was because of the strip club's reaction to the law.
Yeah. So
And just to like give folks listening a little bit of context, you guys are talking about the 2020 law that reclassified strippers as employees, which I was reading might have helped open the door for organizing. Did it not do that, or so did it help with that?
That's another misunderstanding or misinformation about this. So AB 5 actually did not reclassify strippers. Strippers were classified as employees before AB 5, and
but they were classically misclassified.
Yeah, typically misclassified.
Yeah.
How I see it is that club owners use the narrative of Uber and Lyft, like I was saying, to further distance like strippers from wanting to be employees, basically, like to double down on their wage theft practices in new and creative ways, to say, oh, this is because of AB 5 that we have to do this, and that this is because of we have to fire a bunch of people because of AB 5, but really they're doing it because they want to whitewash their clubs. They want to fire like the more marginalized dancers, and so it's. Anyway, the club owners are always to blame. Let's just keep that in mind. What was I saying? Basically that
when we talk about how AB 5
unionizing.
Oh, right.
So so AB 5 does not give us the right to unionize. It is a state-based employment test, which the state determines whether you're an employee or an independent contractor, whether you're entitled to employee rights under state law. The NLRA that governs unionizing is a federal law, and they have their own employment test that they use to decide whether a worker is an employee or an independent contractor. And in 2019, they, in a pretty high-profile case, decided that a stripper in Ohio was an employee with rights under the NLRA. And so based on that case, we can basically not assume completely, but you can judge, based on the circumstances of her workplace, how similar or not yours is to hers, to see, I probably would be an employee under the NLRA. And so that's the test that the NLRA will use in our case. And we think it's clear that we are employees, and it hasn't been a concern on the part of our lawyers to prove that we are. So we think it's so important for strippers across the country to know that it doesn't matter what your state law says about whether you're an employee or an independent contractor. It certainly doesn't. You certainly shouldn't listen to your boss who's telling you that you're an independent contractor. You can look to the NLRA test. You can talk to your lawyer, and it's based on the law, the federal law, whether you're an employee or an independent contractor. And most strippers will be employees under the NLRA. So everyone should unionize.
If your boss is telling you don't unionize, if your boss is telling you something isn't good for you, typically that's probably an indicator that it is good for you.
But what's interesting is so I worked for a boss in Florida, remember, and she reached out to me. I don't know. I feel compelled to say something like, I feel compelled to say that, like, I think that there exists. I think that they're very rare, a rare breed of strip club owner. But I think that there does exist a rare example of a strip club owner that is really trying and that cares and that actually wants the best for their dancers. And in my experience, I've been in this industry over 10 years. I can think of one that is still that is currently in business and reached out to me personally because we still have a personal relationship. I know her in Florida. And she saw everything that was happening, and she like wanted to know like what she could be doing better, and like what she should be doing, and like how she can be a part of this movement and not be the bad guy and not be like against us, because she like really, really cares. And I know from experience working with her that she does. Like, this is not hyperbole. Like, she actually is a good person. And so like is not just in the business because it's lucrative and, you know, easy to hide secrets or something. I don't know why people get into the strip club owner business. I really don't. But she actually is a person that really cares for her dancers as human beings. And I think that I'm looking forward to ways that we can incorporate more of that collaboration, because first of all, I think that is pretty rare. But second of all, I want to honor that. I want to honor a strip club owner that really wants to like do the right thing and like cares about dancers and isn't trying to exploit dancers, you know?
Well, the best union busting tactic is to make your working conditions good for your workers. Like, to listen to your workers and make it good. Like, then they won't unionize. Like,
shit, that's so true. I've never heard anyone say that, but that is really fucking powerful and on point.
Well, that's a big reason that tech is so ununionized, is that their pay rate is huge. They get tons of benefits. Like, if you're a tech professional in the US, like, you don't need to unionize because your life's pretty good, right?
Yeah.
And honestly, I'm for that. Like, if you can get everything that you want without having to go through this struggle, good for you.
Truly.
Good for fucking you.
It kind of sounds like she's the exception that proves the rule, right, though? Because, like, she gives you something to kind of measure all of these other club owners against, and you see all of their failings, and, like, you kind of can't help comparing them to literally the one good boss you've worked for in your entire decade-long career in this industry. Like, that fucking sucks, man.
Yeah,
and I think that's why this movement started with a petition.
Yeah, we were optimistic.
We were
optimistic. I was honestly optimistic.
We were like, they're gonna come on board. They're gonna see that we're serious, and they're gonna speak. They're gonna deal with us for the first time as human beings.
I was honestly thinking that we were gonna have a conversation with Jenny, that we were going to prove the power of collective action, that, you know, we could make some strides without going through all the legal. You know, but that's why the legal thing is there. It's like the stick, you know, it's like...
Yeah, when your boss says, like, I don't care if a stalker stabs you in the parking lot, like...
maybe. Then you just have to go over go after their entire personal wealth, and then they'll start listening to you.
And it's like, it didn't have to go here. It did not have to... We did not have to go this far. All you had to do was come to the table.
Yeah, be a reasonable human being. God. On that note, we didn't get to talk about it when we were talking about the conditions that led you to unionize, but Reagan, I heard you say something about how, like, your employers were joking about the fact that some of the customers were making such threatening or harassing you in such a way that they were joking that they might murder you or something like that. That actually fucking happened, right?
That actually happened.
Oh God, I'm so sorry.
Yeah, and then, you know, and I knew that my concern for my own safety was valid, and I'm so glad that I didn't just like bow my head and kind of like kowtow to this totally misogynistic perspective on this job and what we do, you know. And like there were things that were said to me in that conversation that were like horrific to the point, like, and it was in front of people. Like, it was actually in front of other dancers who were like, who were horrified that
Wow.
that I was being talked to in this way. And like things were said, for example, like because I had concerns about a customer, and then I was responded to by the manager the bartender who was acting as a manager that night. He was changing out our money and was kind of in charge of things. Mm-hmm. And he said, that I was going to be murdered by this customer, and him and the security guard were joking about it, and like how it was going to happen, and like, yeah, he's probably going to shoot me, and like all these things. My God. And then like, when I got upset and was like, well, why don't you do your job? Why don't you kick everyone out at the end of the night? Why are these customers allowed to just linger and like putting our safety and our privacy at risk? Like, why are you not taking these safety precautions seriously? Isn't that your job? And their response was, well, what are you doing to lead him on?
Oh my God.
Jesus, this sounds like an abusive relationship.
It's slut shaming when our job is to be sluts.
Yeah. No, it's like, and like, my response to that is like, have you read my literal job description?
Oh my
what
God.
am I doing to lead him on? That is literally my job description. Like, and your job description as managers in a strip club is to like, first of all, have some order, kick customers out at the end of the night, so that like there isn't this breach of like identity and breach of privacy when we're like in our civilian clothes and like take our makeup off and are going to our cars and are going home to our houses, can you pretend like there's some protocol, like,
and then just insult to injury. They're not even paying us. They're taking half of our lap dance earnings, and then they're not going to protect us.
Yeah.
The least they could do was make sure that we were safe doing our jobs and comfortable doing our jobs.
It was the lowest bar possible to make sure that we don't die, and then they're gonna make jokes about us being murdered, and it's just
Jesus fuck. That makes me so upset. I'm so sorry.
I know.
I would have been like so irate and just like crying and yelling and just like a total mess in that moment.
Yeah.
Like I'm amazed that you were able to like regroup and use this horrible experience to kind of motivate you to stand up for your colleagues, the women that are doing the same work next to you. Like, that is the best thing that you can do with that horrific experience, So cheers to you. Cheers to both of you guys. It's amazing.
Yeah. Do you have any tips for like not spin kicking your boss when he says something like that?
Oh man, this whole campaign has been a spin kick.
I like
Very good point.
Just a slow motion spin kick.
Now I want to make a graphic for when I release this episode that just has you guys slow motion spin kicking people.
Yes, with a platform stiletto, I hope.
And holding a cocktail at the same time. Yeah.
Yes.
I have joked that stripper strike no ho, strike force. It sounds like a fucking anime, like stripper strike force. I'm picturing
I think that would go well together. I like that.
All right, so to get through some more of these questions before you guys have to go, so I'm wondering, what is the special ingredient that has made your group so effective as organizers? Like, is there any special sauce that you've added in there that has made you folks able to kind of push this vote through and make progress in this way?
Well, part of the reason we're so passionate about Star Garden is that it's always been a club that has been fostered a sort of familial, supportive environment among the dancers. And for whatever reason, it's a small club. It attracts like an artistic kind of like creative dancer because it's like it's predominantly stage money, usually when it's working well. And so a lot of like creative like types like to come and like show off their, performance credentials.
Yeah.
Weird way to say it.
Been in the labor law game too long with euphemisms like that.
Performance credentials.
But anyway.
Literally the word that came to my mind was performance acumen. So like, we're both on the same.
Stop hanging out with lawyers. What the fuck?
I know.
I love it.
Exactly.
I love it.
So we're all, just free-spirited artists. We relate to each other. We support each other. And we care about the place. It's one of the last titty bars in Southern California. It's one of the last of its kind, and it's like a dive bar. It's like a neighborhood bar.
You mean like it's the last of its kind because it's like independently owned and not like
and it's like a smaller club. It's not as much like this club environment, like whatever. And it's more of like a dive bar where Jumbo's Clown Room is kind of the famous like Hollywood counterpart. And people know about Jumbo's because it's like a dive bar. There's a jukebox. It's like amazing stage performances. Star Garden has always been the same. But just lesser known. Not anymore.
Yeah, seriously. Thanks to your work. Holy shit.
But
Jumbo's who?
Yeah. We've both worked at
Clown
Jumbo.
By
what?
the way, there's a whole backstory there.
We were both fired from Jumbo's for organizing. Actually.
Yeah.
So.
Can I say, because now I'm like 2.5 cocktails in, fuck Jumbo's.
Fuck. Okay.
Never, don't go to Jumbo's anymore.
Don't go to
Everyone
Jumbo's.
stop it.
Everyone who's listening to this podcast, do not support that shitty ass place that
Damn.
fires union organizers and squashes solidarity. Fuck that place.
Yeah.
Oh, man.
It's owned by a Trump supporting woman. Who, and just because a place is woman-owned does not mean that it's free of exploitation.
Yeah. Definitely.
This is
So-
a banger fucking
Yeah.
interview, man. I've never heard someone say performance acumen and titty bar in the same sentence. Like,
This is going to be killer, dude. All right, we're having way too much
so
fun
it's a special place. It's a special place.
Yeah. Oh, and I also wanted to say on the topic of like what is the special ingredient.
Oh, yeah.
I think that, we can't discount the special ingredient of COVID.
Oh,
That
wow.
like having been through a pandemic and a lot happened during that time in the stripper community. I mean, I don't know if it was as widespread. I'm assuming it was, but in the microcosm of Los Angeles, a lot happened during COVID in the stripper community.
Wow.
And it was like a lot of, it was a roller coaster of entrepreneurship, of taking ownership of the work and creating a virtual space for strippers that was stripper owned and stripper stripper organized. And that was the proving ground for like a sort of co-op idea that now we have taken into the real world, and now we're doing real world co-op strip shows. But all of it started online. Like we created our own sort of like virtual strip club little universe. And it wasn't just in Los Angeles, but I know that in our community there were quite a few spaces that were created during that time. And coming back to the club after the shutdown, for us, we were working at Jumbo's Clown Room before COVID, and then post COVID we were not. We had been fired for we had been organizing during that time before COVID. And then after COVID, when we were sort of like more in the public sphere about our political opinions and about organizing, then we were not rehired. And so when we went back into the club scene, it was about, what do we do now? Like, how do we take everything that we've learned and the empowerment that we have felt during this time? How do we take this into the real world?
So we were looking for our next target, basically.
yeah, going on the internet to look at naked women, I don't think no one would do that.
No one's going to do that.
Not gonna work.
Oh my God, no, John.
COVID was an interesting time.
No.
It was an interesting time.
I mean,
and then coming back from that, and dancers had felt a feeling of ownership over the work that they hadn't felt before. And so coming back into the club environment where we were subject to things in the workplace that we didn't necessarily agree to, and like and dealing with bosses that didn't respect us and didn't uplift us in the way that we wanted. And I think that was a secret ingredient, as it is in many industries. I think that like you realize how life could be and how, you know, and what life is, even like the meaning of life. You know, a lot of us had a lot of like kind of revelations during that time of the shutdown, and then coming back to work at a place that doesn't value you as a human is a very difficult pill to swallow. And so I think that the unionizing bug has been kind of traveling around, and it makes sense to me that it came to the club.
And in the wake of COVID, amazing.
We've never had that take on this show before, but it totally tracks.
It totally fucking tracks. And that is so much of what got Chris Smalls to unionize. It was a huge impetus behind what they were doing at the ALU. So, and
them not getting sufficient COVID like PPI,
like
being essential workers, but being treated like
their
trash.
Supervisors were coming in sick, and that was a big part of it too.
And so I don't know. I mean, I think like being a worker who's interfacing with people, and at the same time is like facing down death on the regular because COVID is a fucking, death-causing pandemic. I think that really, like you said, made people evaluate like what's important here, what's valuable in this workplace. What should I fight for and what should I not fight for? When should I leave?
There was, I just want a quick story.
Totally.
In Orange County, there was a strip club that opened up during COVID and moved the entire club into the parking garage. So like, I imagine like giving a lap dance with like the sign that's in all the California parking garages saying like, you might be exposed to cancerous, like we have to say prop whatever. It says we have to say that, carbon monoxide or whatever. So it's just like funny to think about that and visualize that.
But anyway, stripper name could be like Prop 51.
Prop 51 or whatever that like sign is. But it is funny, but it's not funny, but it is like strippers were like risking, getting seriously ill like on the job shortly after the pandemic when clubs were reopening. So
totally. I'm glad you guys brought that up. That is not the response I was expecting. I was thinking you guys were going to say something like, we were dressing up in all these costumes, like we were doing these regular strikes.
You guys ever do any socially distanced lap dances? Because I
it's impossible. That's why it was so risky to work during COVID. I got Delta, and like I was out for a month.
Fuck.
Yeah, and also the current owners of Star Garden don't believe in COVID. Had zero protocol for COVID at like from day one, and so add that to the list of complaints.
Yeah, if your employer doesn't think that the thing that you're facing is potentially going to kill you, but it is, that's going to motivate you to do something, to organize. Wow.
Yeah.
Wow, dude. I saw, and I think it was in one of the Perfect Union videos that you guys did, which were amazing. Everyone should go watch those. Those were, I literally, tears came to my eyes watching some of those videos. I was so like, oh, these ladies are doing it. Fuck yeah. But anyway, I wrote down a quote from you, Reagan. I became a stripper because if the world is set up in this way that I'm going to be exploited for my femme body, I want control over that. I want to exploit the system that seeks to exploit me. We're just like you. We're just people trying to work in an exploitative capitalist society. So I would love to hear you both talk a little bit about how you view your work as strippers fitting into the larger capitalist hellscape that we're living within.
Yeah. And I also want to just like acknowledge like this sort of the funny dichotomy between this sort of like stripper aesthetic of like rolling around in cash and being like, cash money, yeah. You know, like just like so like so in with the capitalism. Yeah. And there's like that image of it. And like I don't know why that cracks me up, but like I think about it like all the time, how we like really like glorify the you know, fast money, cash money and all that.
Well, you literally have it thrown at you, so
yeah, literally.
There's some connections there that could be easily made.
No, totally, and it's a big. I think it's a big part of the stripper identity. I think it's a big part of this. It's obviously a big part of the stripper aesthetic, and like, I think to acknowledge that, like, to me, it sort of highlights the ridiculousness of, like, you know, capitalism's obsession with money and like getting to the top and being like a baller and, you know, like just the image of a stripper like rolling around in cash and just like the absurdity of it is the point.
Money is a prop.
At least for me, like, and I don't want to say that like money is not the point of the work, because it is. We are trying to survive.
Yeah.
And money is a part of survival, unfortunately, and that's a part of, you know, what I think we are invested in. We're invested in the fight to create a different future where, like, you know, where money isn't the kind of like end all be all of survival. But I mean, unfortunately, because of the world, because of the society that we're in, it is. So it is a part of survival. And so like I don't want to downplay the survival nature of the work, because a lot of us, and not all of us, but a lot of us are in this industry for survival on some level. Whether
you're not
it's
just doing
like
it for the love of the game.
Yeah. I mean, and like, and maybe it's a combination. I mean, I think for a lot of us, it's a combination. I think a lot of us really enjoy the work. But I think a lot of us enjoy the work and, you know, do it for survival, because this is how we're surviving. And I think like what I meant by that quote is like, I came to stripping, I mean, I'll just admit it. Like I came to stripping from an academic background, and then a lot changed since then, trust me. But like I came to it like having graduated with a degree in women, gender, and sexuality studies.
Wow.
And being like, you know, I feel very well suited to this job, and like thinking of it through an academic lens of like, you know, my body carries a certain currency in this culture and I'm going to exploit it for myself. You know, I was like
John's
very
losing
like,
his mind over here.
I'm like,
John's like, what?
My mind is thoroughly blown over here.
I love that.
I'm reeling.
And that was a long time ago, and like it's not that I don't still hold those beliefs, but I definitely I have found much more in this lifestyle and in this career than I thought I was going to. Yeah. What I came into it thinking is not where I'm at now. Like I've learned a lot, but what hasn't changed is the fact that, you know, like I said in the quote, it's like our culture is the way that it is, and we can create these movements and things can change. But just looking at things from like a sort of base level, it's like we live in a capitalist society, and women's bodies are exploited in capitalism. And so whether you sign off on it or not, if you have a femme body, if you have a body that is sexualized, then you are going to be the recipient of that exploitation. Yeah. You can either, and you know, and this is kind of a simplified way to look at it, so I apologize, but like you can either be a signatory on that or not. Like you can get dividends from that, or you can be fighting that with like, you know, with different tools. But like for me, I'm interested in that space of being empowered. And that is, you know, That's a whole like feminist argument. Can you be empowered if you're being exploited? Well, what if the awareness of your exploitation is a part of your empowerment? What if you're doing it on purpose for your own gain? What if you enjoy it actually? What if there is something from the sexual exploitation that is pleasurable to you when you get a piece of that, when it comes back to you? So like for me personally, and I'll definitely let Velveeta answer this as well, because I think that women's experiences are so myriad. Everyone's going to have a different answer to this question. But for me, it's about how do I benefit from this thing that's going to happen anyway? How do I benefit, and how do I let that help me in my survival in this world?
Absolutely.
Right, and it's like you're either going to be expected to be sexy, beautiful, emotionally supportive, emotionally available, sexually available as a woman for free, or you're going to perform all of those things in a hopefully safe and controlled environment where you can benefit from it and support yourself. So it's like
John's his mind's blown.
I need to lie down.
What
the fuck, man? You're not questioning my whole worldview.
I've never seen John get his mind blown so hard.
John, are you okay? You look all fucked up. Like, man, these strippers talked to me for an hour last night, and I haven't been the same ever since.
Sorry to interrupt. It's just so good. So good.
I don't want to interrupt too much, but like the oh god, this is fucking crazy. So like the transactionality that you guys are kind of discussing in terms of like engaging with society as a woman is something I've never thought about. And the idea that like you're either expected to do this for free or for money is actually like knocked me on my ass for a second there.
I love that.
And I think you two are uniquely positioned to comment on this because you're the only people that actually like make that choice of your own volition to engage in that transactionality, like to take control of it, right? And it's really interesting to see like the thought process behind what would make someone want to do this and even enjoy it and like take control of it and try and improve it for themselves and for other people. It's I'm like I'm on a different planet right now. This is wild, man.
And that's why it's a feminist. Sex work is a feminist issue because it's about women having control over how they use their bodies, you know, and like the terms that govern the terms over which, you know, their bodies are used or expectations of us. So that's an important part of all of this as well. But the issue of the things that are expected of women and the transactionality kind of segues into what my recent thinking on all of it has been to like question. So there's a lot to this, so I have to kind of like try to figure out how to enter into it. But I guess the thing I'm most concerned about correcting or clarifying from is when I said money is a prop. It's like that could sound really bad because I'm a white woman. I have a lot of privilege. Like I don't have as much financial insecurity as other people who haven't been exposed to the same privilege as I am. But in thinking about it, I'm thinking of money having in a capitalist society, it can tend to have so much power over our lives, and cash especially, so tangible and like and beyond just meeting our basic needs. It's like it has this control over what we desire. I mean, you know, you're thinking about like buying a designer handbag, and like a lot of strippers do buy designer stuff with the money that they make, and I don't judge that at all, but it's like this capitalist society we live in is like an engine that constantly drives us towards this consumerism and the power of cash and the power of money. And so it is kind of like the absurdism and the performativity of like throwing cash around is can also be liberating in its own way.
Totally.
But thinking about like these relationships, so there's the transactionality of it, and the transactionality of it I think can be fairly threatening to the very relationships that sustain us in our work, which is the customer-worker relationship. And a lot of people criticize strippers as being hustlers or like being heartless, like scammers, because you're playing on men's emotions.
I don't know if you feel that way. You
living.
did that to yourself, you know.
Well, that's the thing that's the thing that I've been thinking more deeply about lately, is that that there are. In almost like from this like I'm kind of being introduced to anarchism through basically meeting people on the picket line, which is, it's so cool that how our picket line became like this cafe society over 9 months. But
yeah, like a old timey cafe society. Yeah.
Oh my
But
god,
so-
I
Have to hook him up
yeah.
with Stephen Vogel's drinking club.
yeah, totally.
But yeah, so I'm reading this book about practical anarchism, and it talks about the moments in between where we're not surveilled by the state, where we're not like subject to market forces, where there are these like moments where we can support each other through care, and like there are these relationships of care that exist within capitalism. And I've been thinking about like, what if you go to your neighborhood bakery every week and you start to strike up this friendship with the person behind the counter, and that is a meaningful relationship within the context of capitalism, and it would be crossing a boundary if you are, but it happens, and it happens with strippers too, that customers end up dating strippers and they end up getting married or something like that does happen. But it is like these relationships of care can exist without being compromised. Like there's a personal professional divide, and that can be respected, and that can exist without like negating the actual care relationship that exists in the professional sphere, I guess is what I'm saying.
I see.
Like that is a real meaningful relationship. And, so like if you're a customer going into a strip club and your goal is to date a stripper, that is like inappropriate. Is what I'm saying, basically. And that's what we say in like all different sorts of ways. But like as a customer at a strip club, you are still in the position to benefit from a meaningful care relationship with your sex worker. Yeah. And like that is the work that we do, is that we are care workers, we are essential workers. Like I've met customers on our picket line who say that strippers have saved their lives, like sex workers have saved their lives, like saved them from committing suicide.
Oh my god!
God.
What the fuck?
Like I mean, it's very real. Like strippers are essential workers, like care workers. Yeah. And sex work is care work, and so like these relationships can exist under capitalism, and it's really us supporting each other to survive. Like in almost a way of like mutuality. And I think that like particular kind of culture exists at Star Garden as a kind of neighborhood bar. And so I'm really excited to see, because we're building on that with our stripper co-op, and like the relationships we have with our customers are really important in the co-op. And so we want to create like a strip club culture that is like affirmative of the value of sex workers and the value of our work, and like that we have great joy in, and that customers can create, have such joy in, and really like eschews this kind of hollow nature of like the transactionality. Like we can have a culture of care, even within a capitalist framework.
Dude, my mind is flashing forward like 20 years in the future, where strip clubs have become like the seed bed for anarchist revolution, and like you go to a strip club and you come out radicalized.
Fuck yeah.
Oh that's what we're talking about here.
The way that our shows turn the capitalist, competition idea on its head, because
we're communist strippers too.
Literally, because our shows, our whole thing is about splitting the bag. So stripping is about making the bag, securing the bag, getting the bag. Yeah. And that's on a personal basis. That's like, I made the bag tonight. Like, you know, I beat everybody out and I made the most money. Like, that's the that's the sort of capitalist stripper mindset. And then like during COVID is when we were like, you know what? We're all maybe about to die because there's this pandemic and like this could be the end of the world. And like not everyone has the same resources. So during the pandemic, when we were doing these virtual shows, we came up with the idea, let's split everything. Let's get a whole, let's like get the audience as like big as possible. Let's invite everybody. Let's get as many donations, you know, / tips as we can. And then we just split everything down the middle. And that's what we did. And it was hugely successful. And not only did we split all of the tips, all of the dancers then had an opportunity to donate however much money that they felt comfortable with. And then we made these huge donations to these nonprofit and mutual aid. So like we were donating to mutual aid nonprofits like we've donated now over $50,000 like through that like
Cyber Clown Girls like Reagan's show.
And that's not and that's not including the money that all the dancers made that we like, you know, split. So like they're making their money and we were able to donate over $50,000 and it's like this is possible. So like my whole thing is like splitting the bag or sharing the bag rather. I think sharing the bag kind of sounds a little bit sexier. Sharing the bag is like like you are still making a bag, you know, like you're not losing anything, but we're helping each other. And so that's what we're doing now with the stripper co-op, that we took this ethos from the virtual realm and now we're doing it with the stripper co-op shows and we're splitting all of the tips. So like it's a beautiful fucking thing.
We have a customer who pools like solicits donations from his coworkers to like pool tips to tip the strippers who then split the tips equally.
Yeah.
So it's like this whole communist chain of events.
Yeah, it's a game.
Very funny.
All of his like game worker friends, like they're all game workers and they like pool. He just made this post and I fucking died. Like we just shared it on our Instagram, but it was like,
I think I saw it.
It's like Venmo me, and I do trust this guy. He's like whoever wants to be in on this, you know, send me some money through my Venmo and we're gonna make it rain on these unionized strippers. Like
I'm gonna send that guy some money.
I know, he's fucking awesome.
Yeah.
Shout out to Brian for being a badass. I love that dude.
I love that.
I just want to say too that it's a way that like as white, you know, conventionally like skinny, you know, bitches like it's a way that we can use our privilege to like redistribute the wealth in a sense.
Yes.
By splitting things evenly, and that's like something that we're taking into account as we structure the co-op.
Yes. And dancers with more social capital, like if they have, you know, big followings, like they can, you know, they sort of open up our audience to like to more folks, to more exposure, and then everyone benefits. That means dancers that don't have that like social media capital or whatever, or like don't have, you know, conventional bodies like that would be hired at strip clubs. Everyone benefits. Everything is split, and like that is the that is the future. Like
it's a revolution.
It is a revolution.
I love that so much. Oh God, that's so great. I love that you folks are like thinking so much about how to distribute that wealth and help each other out. And you know, and I know that mutual aid is a crucial part of organizing in general. Like when you're doing these strikes, you guys have to show up for each other and provide support for each other in all different ways. It could be bringing food to people striking or whatever. It could be, you know, doing childcare, you know, all these things. So it's wonderful to hear you talking about, you know, how this is a kind of communal effort where everyone needs to be giving back to each other in such a beautiful way. That's really, really fucking awesome.
Let's parlay this into the fixing the exploitative aspects under capitalism question.
Okay.
Yeah.
Good idea.
Yeah.
Great job, John.
Yeah. Producer.
Yeah. Great job producing.
Number one producer.
So I was wondering what you ladies thought would need to be changed what needs to happen to fix some of the exploitative elements of capitalism, and these aspects of...
Well, let's reframe that to
Sorry.
exploitative aspects of this work under capitalism.
Sorry, yeah,
You don't
I
want to
fucked
ask
that
them
up.
about
I
capitalism.
fucked that up.
I'm sure they fucking
I'm a little
could
drunk.
answer that. They could just be like, oh, here's how you fix capitalism. Turns out the answer was just ask a stripper the whole time. And they'll fix your economic system for you. But let's try and keep it like...
Yeah, sorry, I just am a little drunk. Sorry, ladies.
I love the second half of these episodes, man.
Jesus
Like,
Christ.
there's just a cliff you can watch this podcast fall off
The shit
of
show
at certain
clip.
points.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. So what would need to happen to fix some of the exploitative aspects of stripping and sex work under capitalism?
Only sex workers should profit off of sex work.
Period.
All right, asked and answered. Damn.
So we're talking worker-owned cooperatives. That's what we're pursuing with the stripper co-op.
Wow.
And I think that's really the only just way to do this work. It's our bodies on the line, it's our emotions, it's our labor. I mean, that goes for any work, honestly. Like, all businesses should be worker-owned co-ops. Workers should be the ones profiting off of their own labor. It's just, I think it's as simple as that for me, really.
Yeah. And also, like, not to say that there aren't people who can be a part of this model. Like, I'm thinking of, we have, like, these amazing, I don't even call them security guards. I call them safe space guardians.
Oh,
but we have these
True.
amazing safe space guardians, conventionally called security guards, that we have to do our shows. And they are incredible humans. They are not sex workers, but they are compassionate, empathetic, and caring and good at their job. And we hire them because we trust them. They have proven themselves to be trustworthy men. And they are a part of our co-op model. And so what that means is like, when we, the tip money is split between the performers, because performers keep your tips, period, and stop. But then the event revenue that the event brings in from ticket sales or any other kind of like merchandise sales, stuff like that, any other profit, we divide that up, and then that gets, after a portion of that goes to mutual aid, then like the rest of that gets divided up between everyone who is a part of that model, everyone who is a part of the stripper co-op model.
Working the event.
So that includes like our security guards. So like they, like after we pay them their fee, they've been paid. We have hired them contractually for this event, but then they also get a piece of the event revenue. And it's like, depending on the show, it can be more or less, but like, it's not only extra money, which we all need to survive under capitalism, but it's a gesture of goodwill that we are in this together, and that like them making this a successful event is just as important as us making this a successful event. And so that's important to us too.
Yeah. So we are in the process of like figuring that part out too, but it's definitely just like collectivity. And I mean, I think that is potentially an answer to fixing capitalism and that's an anarchist idea, is like these affinity groups of people working together to benefit each other mutually and cooperatively. And and that's how people thrive, I think.
Absolutely.
That's how people can thrive. Yeah.
Absolutely.
Turns out they did just fix capital. I tried to keep it narrow, and they were like, no. Here's how you...
To surpass the whole question. I love it.
Wait, I have a magic wand. I'm gonna wave this magic wand.
Yeah, our labor fairies.
Our labor fairies over there, yeah.
For everyone listening, you're just gonna have to imagine this amethyst wand I'm holding in my hand, and we just fixed capitalism. You're welcome. You're welcome.
Oh my god. I need to like clip that, use it over and over. So good.
Yeah, we'll put some effects over it.
Yeah. Some sparkles. Yeah. Oh my god. Wow. Well, that was fucking great.
We're gonna turn you into a meme.
Yeah.
Excellent.
And I mean, it all made me think of anarcho-syndicalism where you're forming these co-ops and focusing on community and building those bonds between different groups that are trying to, provide for everyone in that group. So yeah, I don't know. I think you folks are going in the exact right direction, doing the exact right work. Okay, I'm at my last question here. I'm just wondering, in terms of the coolest things you've ever experienced or been a part of, how would you rank organizing with the women at the Star Garden Topless Dive Bar?
Oh, it's been the best thing I've ever done in my life. Yeah,
hands down.
I think from the time of the first co-op show we did was the best night of my life up to that point.
Oh my God.
And then there's been like the night that we had our election night party after the election. That's like a close, that's like maybe the next best night or the best night after the first best night. So
no, and in between that was the day that the rally that we were announcing at first that we were organizing with Strippers United.
Yeah, that was
we had
a
our
great
first
day.
big rally.
Yeah.
That was the best day up until that point. That was the best day of my life.
So it just keeps getting better.
Wow.
Yeah.
Oh my God. Wow.
This has been like the culmination of like my entire life's work. And also I didn't go into this at all, but like I've been a member of Actors Equity for over 6 years. And it was not my idea that like these two worlds would merge, but like that has been its own journey of just this like serendipitous, like my life's work in one career and my life's work in this other career have now merged and like completely unexpected, like two totally parallel things that now are like together
full
and like
circle.
it's those are the moments that like that kind of serendipity is what tells me that like I am on the right path, that like this work is all going in the right direction, and that like this literally is this in so many more ways than you even know. This is like the culmination of my life's work. So like
it feels destined.
It feels amazing.
I have not believed in a higher power in my life until this year.
Oh shit.
Wow. Oh shit. Reagan's like, whoa.
No. It's been a running joke in the campaign that I'm gonna go have my talk with God, but it's like, I don't know. It's more of like,
wow.
It's more of like, things happen and you're like, well, I mean, this is a whole nother conversation, but like meditation, you realize that your thoughts are not like under your control. You don't think your thoughts. Mm-hmm. So like everything is kind of just like happening like, as it does and I guess, and I learned this in the strip club. Nothing happened. Like if something happened, it was always going to happen. This is like if you sell a lap dance. If you don't sell a lap dance, it's like if it didn't happen, it was never going to happen. So I think that's where we're headed. I think that's destiny, and I'm also a little drunk right now.
Dude, cheers to that. Oh my God. I'm going to grab my last drink. Grabbing my last drink to cheers to that.
I have a little bit left to cheers.
Very nice. Very nice.
Ending the night on like some titty bar philosophy, like some fatalism, determinism kind of.
It was never going to happen.
Yeah. Cool.
You weren't expecting that, John?
It's always going to happen.
At this point, I was expecting it, honestly. It was like,
well, good.
It was always going to happen.
Yeah.
That's beautiful. Wow. I love that perspective. I love that you have both thrown yourself into this work so entirely and with like so much joy and concern for the people beside you, not just for yourself. That is such an anti-capitalist act in and of itself, to just care for your coworkers, care for the people next to you. So I'm so impressed by that. I love getting to see your solidarity, your community, your friendship there. Like you ladies have obviously been like rocking and rolling together for a while. So
in the trenches.
In the trenches. Yeah, seriously. So, I mean,
does the Actors Equity thing mean that we might get like Topless Hamlet finally?
Oh my God.
Like a Titty Hamlet show. I would love that.
Haven't we all been waiting for Topless Hamlet?
Like,
skulls
how could they
and
make
the
this
boobs.
less fucking boring?
The elephant in the room is that we are all waiting for Topless Hamlet.
I think the stage at Star Garden is in for some pretty interesting productions.
Oh
Fuck
my
yeah.
God. Yes, please.
You go
As
to
a
the
Shakespeare nerd, I am 100% in
Hey man, you want to come down to the titty bar tonight? They're doing fucking King Lear.
It's happening. It's fucking happening.
bring my grandparents. They'll love it.
Yes. Yes.
Oh man. All right. So so we're at the end of the show. Where can folks find you and follow along with the work that you're doing?
Yeah, so currently we are doing all of our updates, all of our social media information is at Instagram at Stripper Strike NoHo.
Nice.
You can also follow us on Twitter at Strip Strike NoHo.
Perfect.
Yes, and then also we'd love to plug the co-op, the stripper co-op, and that is Instagram stripper co _ op.
Nice.
That's at Stripper Co-op.
And and then at some point in the, I believe, relatively near future, we will be going through a rebranding since we will no longer be on strike. So look out for that. But
Yeah.
I do believe if you look up Stripper Strike NoHo, you should be able to find us, even if you find this episode later after we have rebranded.
We'll
Like,
keep
Not too
it in
many
our
stripper
bio.
unions out there right now, right?
Yeah, not
Like-
too many.
Yeah, not too many.
No.
And also consider donating to our action fund.
That's what I was
how
gonna ask.
we are supporting ourselves. We're still out of work. We're still locked out.
Yeah.
We don't know how long that's going to continue. So it's really helpful to continue to receive like the donations that are keeping us afloat.
Yeah, it is super helpful, and as always, those donations get split between all of the dancers who have been affected by this, and so like
Wow.
your donation will go a long way, and it will go to the right place.
Oh,
And
that's
you know, this
wonderful.
work of striking, campaigning is serious work that like takes away from our ability to like earn money. So
Yeah. Oh,
It's
definitely.
like, so if you care about stripper rights and the better strip club of the future, please support us.
Yeah,
if you care about the struggle of the working class in general, like these are women who are doing some of the most important work right now. Support them, stand in solidarity with them. I'm going to make a donation. I will include the link in the episode description so you folks can go donate as well and help to keep this process, this fight going.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, absolutely. And thank you ladies so much. I'm so blown away by your work, by your brilliance, by the fact that you're like showing up in such a fun and positive and just like, I don't know, it gives me life to see what you guys are doing. And I literally was crying looking at the More Perfect Union videos, seeing what you guys are doing. Like,
I mean, Erica cries at like King of the Hill.
well, yeah, that might be
is
true.
one of our favorite. That's one of my personal favorite videos is from More Perfect Union. So shout out to them. They have made some really great content.
Oh, yeah, hell yeah. And we're having Jessica Burbank from More Perfect Union on the show soon, too. So
Awesome.
she's doing great work. But all right. Well, cheers, ladies. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you.